straight away. Okay, and they unmute. Okay.
Aere maira, nā raura matira mā ki te rā whakahira hira mōna, kai ako o Aotearoa e. Mauria mai nā mate hei whakamana ki te kaupapa te rānei e.
Tau mai te mauri o te mātauranga. He mauri ai o nuku, he mauri ai o rangi. Tēnei te mauri ka whakatakina, ki runga ki tēnei kaupapa whakamiharo. E tui tui nei te muka tangata i runga rā i ngā ia o ngā rangi. Pouhihiko Pourarama, ti aho I roto, marama I roto. Hui te marama, hui te ora. Tūturu ka whakamau ai kia tina, tina. Aumi e, hui e, taiki e. Whakarongo ake rau ki te tangi a te manu nei a te mātui tui 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 a. Tui ai runga, tui ai raro. Tui ai roto, tui ai waho. Tui a te here tangata ka rongo te o, ka rongo te pō. Tui a te muka tangata I take a mai Hawaii ki nui, Hawaii ki roa, Hawaii ki pāmama, te hono ki wairua, ki te whaia, ki te ao marama. Tihei mauri o rā. E ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, kua hono nei tātou i runga i ngā i o ngā rangi. Tēnā rā tātou katoa. Tomo mai rā, kuhu mai rā, ki roto i a tātou mahi. Tomo mai rā, kuhu mai rā, i runga i te reo pōhiri, o akoa o te aroa. Tangihia rā, ngā mate tua tini o te rā, o te tau. A tātou hei piripiri, a tātou hei moki. A tātou hei tāwhiri, a tātou katitara mea. Kōrero atu nei koutou i te autaia urutānei a te kōwhiti te kaumāiwa. Au e taukiri e. Koutou rā kia koutou, ko mātou ki muri nei kia mātou. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Te hinganga ke kangaru e te whenua, ka haruru ngā rangi. Engari aha kua ngaru e te whenua, tūtonu ngā mahi. Aha kua haruru ngā rangi, tūtonu ngā mahi. Hapainga, hikitia, Akina mai rā, te mana, te tapu, te ihi, te ihi. Hapainga, hikitia te kaupapa o te rā. Te tukunga tohu ki ngā kaiako, whakahirahira o te wāhanga, kuratua toru o Aotearoa. E te honore Premier, Jacinda Ardern, kua rangatira te kaupapa nei a koe. E mau nei hoki tō ingoa ki te tohu matua ara ko te korowai a tāhua nei ko te rauaroha. Ka uhia nei ki runga ki ngā pakihiwi o te tirotoa o te tau. Tēnā koe. E te honore Chris Hipkins. Mini tau te mātauranga me te hauora tēnā rā koe. I tuku mai nei koe ngā kōrero whakanui a te kāwanatanga tēnā koe. E ngā pokapū mātauranga hoki o te kāwanatanga. Tēnā rā koutou tātou e mahitahi nei ki te hāpai ake i ngā putanga mātauranga. Ko te tāhuhu o te mātauranga tēnā. Ko te amorangi mātauranga matua tēnā. Ko te mana tohu mātauranga o Aotearoa tēnā. Ka taka mai kona ki ngā whare wānanga auraki, ngā whare wānanga Maori, ngā whare takiura, ngā whare mahi, ngā whare whakangungu. Tēnā rā koutou i tono mai rā i ngā ingoa o ngā kaiako whakamiharo. O tira me whakanui hoki te rōpū i whiriwhiri nei ngā tono nei kia putai ko tēnei tokoiwa i te rā nei tēnā koutou. Ka hoki whakaroto mai ki roto anō i a mātou ki tō mātou puari whakahaere ki te rūnanga Māori, ki te rūnanga o te moana nui a Kiwa, ki te rūnanga e kia nei hoki ko te Academy. Nāna nei whakatū i whakahaere tēnei kaupapa, ka mihi ake tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Ka pai.
Ka huri ngā mihi ki o mātou tumuaki. Kia koe Helen Lomax, kia koe Graham Benny, koutou mā Rāwiri Tau Nui, koutou mā o te moana nui a Kiwa Pasifika, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. O tira, koe rā iritana, tō mātou kuia, e noho nei hei pakeke mō tātou, e kui kia kaha kia koe, kia mau, kia u, kia manawa nui. Hoi anō, ko ngā tāngata e tika ana me tino whakanui e tātou i te rānei, ko ngā kaia kotonu. I tono mai rā hoki, a rātou tono. Ko rātou i nei, i whakapau i tēnei mea te kaha. I tino aroake nei ki a rātou akonga. I whakaarangi ake a rātou akonga ki runga rawa kia angitu ai rātou. Tēnā koutou. I te mutunga iho, ko ngā akonga. Te tino pūtake o a rātou nā mahi, o a tātou nā mahi. Nā reira, ngā mihi nui, whakaharahara. Katoa kia koutou, te toko iwa. Ka whakanuia i te rānei, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia whātoro ake, ki te whakatau ki a akoa o te aroa, nā āheitanga, a mātauranga, ko angitu a akonga. Nā reira, huri noa, huri noa, huri noa, tēnei te mihi ake ki a tātou katoa, i tuitui anei, i runga i ngā io ngā rangi, i te rānei, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa, ka huri. E ngā iwi e taunei, tēnā koutou katoa, anei te whakatau aki, a koa o te aroa, nā heitanga, a mātauranga, ko angitu, a konga. E ngā iwi e taunei, tēnā koutou katoa, ne ngā uara e rima, a koa o te aroa, ko te pumautanga tēnā, ko te maramatanga tēnā, ko te whakamanatanga tēnā, ko te awhitanga tēnā, ko te whanangatanga tēnā. Nō reira e ngā iwi, kia mau kia u, kia manawa nui. Toi tu te reo, toi tu te reo, toi tu ngā tikanga. Toi tu te reo, toi tu te reo, toi tu ngā tikanga. I au e hi. Nā reira, i tēnei wāhanga, kei muri atu i te whakāturanga nei, ka tukuna te rā kau kōrero ki tā tātou kaikawe, i a tātou whakahaere i tēnei ahi, ki te tākutu nei ki a Karen Paringātai, e noho mai rā i te waipounan. Nā reira, e hine mā, e tama mā, e kui mā, e koro mā, tātou e hui hui nei, i runga i ngā ia o te rangi nei, tēnā koutou, o tira, tēnā rā tātou katoa, ka huri.
aku maraikura, ke aku whatukura, koutou ko hono mai a ipurangi nei ki tēnei hui whakanui I te ekenga o ngā kaiako nei ki te taumata tike tike, nei rā te reo omihi ki a koutou katoa. I te tuatahi me mihi ka tika ki a rātou kua tau atu ki te pai o mahara, he roi ki te mata, he hupe ki te ihu, he mamai ki te ngākau e kore e musu. Nō reira e ngā rākau taumatua o ki mai. Kia tātou nā waihotanga o rātou mā, tēnā tātou katoa. Te uri tēnei no te tai rāwhiti e whakapāhuana ki a koutou I tēnei ahiahi, ka kō ngā kōpara o rongo mai tāpui, e kō. Whetū matarau, awatere, maunga kāka, orotua, rere kauana ngā mihi. Tēnā tātou katoa. I'd like to welcome you all to, wherever you may be in the world, for the 2020 National Tertiary Teaching Excellence Awards. My name is Karen Paringatai, and I'm a lecturer in Te Tumu, the School of Māori, Pacific and Indigenous Studies at the University of Otago in Dunedin, where I'm speaking to you from today. And I have the privilege of being your MC for this afternoon. It's my honour to perform this role on behalf of Ako Aotearoa, who is committed to supporting New Zealand's tertiary teachers, trainers and educators to be the best they can be to enhance learner success. Sitting alongside Ako Aotearoa are the Ako Aotearoa Board, Te Rūnanga Māori and the Pacific People's Caucus. And I'd like to acknowledge their support in providing advice on the governance and strategic direction of Ako Aotearoa. Since the recent announcement of the country moving into different alert levels, the team at Ako Aotearoa have been working around the clock to reorganise this event and move it online in order to be able to honour our recipients today. The beauty of doing it this way is that we're now able to share this momentous occasion with a much bigger audience. We thank you all very much for undertaking such a giant task so that this event could still go ahead. I'm sure it's been a logistical nightmare, but you've done it with a higher purpose in mind, to be able to acknowledge and celebrate our country's greatest tertiary teachers today in a way that they deserve. Mai te reto tango te puna aroha, tēnā koutou katoa. Since 2001, these awards have acknowledged and recognised more than 200 of New Zealand's top tertiary teachers. And today we'll celebrate and acknowledge the achievements of another 9 outstanding teachers from a range of disciplines and a range of tertiary institutions throughout the country. But first, let me cover a few housekeeping matters. For your information, this event is being recorded on Zoom. It's also being live streamed on Ako Aotearoa's YouTube account, so please let other people know if you haven't already. Our chat system is up and running, so if you have messages for the recipients or the organisers, then please send them through. A reminder that these messages will be visible by everyone connected in. And could you all please make sure that your microphones are muted? So because you are muted, we won't be able to hear your rapturous applause as the recipients are named. So I want us to use the sign language form for clapping instead. So we can all practice that now. It works just as well. However, those of you who are sitting with one of our recipients, you don't have to do this. Okay, make sure you clap and cheer your heart out when their name is read out. There will be a couple of occasions where we'll unmute everyone, and when we do, that'll be the cue for everyone to go crazy with your applause. Now, this is obviously not the usual way these awards are done, but in these uncertain times, we must do what's best for the health and safety of all of us Zooming in today. It would also be remiss of us to go ahead with these awards in person and put the Honourable Chris Hipkins, Minister of Education and Minister of Health, in a precarious position to attend in person, given the immense pressure he's under at the moment. But he was able to spare some time to record a couple of videos, the first of which we'll play now.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, and my very warmest greetings to you all. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to be part of the Ako Aotearoa Teaching Excellence Awards once again, where we honour outstanding teachers in teaching practice. It's important to me to be involved in events that celebrate the excellence of our tertiary education system and the skills of the teachers that that's built on. These awards are for sustained excellence. All of you are teachers with a long-term commitment to passing on your knowledge and skills to students and colleagues. With the awards not happening in the way that was planned, in some ways, that represents the year that you've been having as tertiary teachers. The teaching model most of you were used to working with was upended. Almost overnight, we had to adjust to a way of working and learning that few of us were prepared for in terms of training and technology. Lecture halls were closed, tutorials and labs were cancelled, video conferencing became the main way to teach and to collaborate, and Zoom entered all of our vocabulary. It wasn't just about online teaching. You had massive welfare issues to consider. Tens of thousands of international students were faced with the dilemma of staying here or returning home. Thousands of local students were either locked down in hostels or relocated away from the close and supportive academic environment to places that might not have been ideal for study. As Minister of Education and as a New Zealander, I'm incredibly proud of the way that you and the rest of the education sector pulled your collective selves up and focused on the needs of your students and their families. It's been a tough time, but you can be really proud of how you've responded. I also want to thank Aotearoa for the significant amount and dedication that you've put into managing these awards, and to the judging panel who face some really difficult decisions, I'm sure. In particular, I want to recognise Dr. Graham Benny, the chair of the Aotearoa board, and Director Helen Lomax. I know there'll be some disappointment that we're not celebrating together in person, but that doesn't diminish the value of what you do and the value of these awards. So congratulations to all of you, and enjoy the rest of this unique celebration of teaching excellence. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Ki te pine e kore nei e wai kura e.
Now's the time we've all been waiting for, where we get to celebrate and hear from all of our awardees. All of today's recipients are outstanding teachers who contribute to learning success that reaches far beyond the classroom. It's also clear that today's awardees have shown the selection panel that they're not only passionate about their discipline, but instill that same passion in their students. Awards are presented across two categories: the general category for sustained excellence in tertiary teaching, and the Kaupapa Maori category for sustained excellence in tertiary teaching in a Kaupapa Maori context. Let us begin with the Kaupapa Maori category. Today, we have an unprecedented 5 awardees who are being acknowledged in this section. Our first recipient, Jo Hetalensen, comes to us from Unitec Institute of Technology, where she's a senior lecturer in the School of Community Studies. She's an early childhood teacher educator who imparts to her students the view of tamariki as taonga, the impact teachers can have in children's lives, and why that carries with it a duty of care. A poem written as feedback by one of Yo's students shows the process of enlightenment they go through in her classroom. They wrote, "You said whakarongo, and I did. You said whakarongo, and the wax in my taringa that protects me from unwanted noise shuffled to the side, creating an opening. I bathed in your wisdom. I felt cleansed and uplifted. I listened and I saw your words as they flowed through the wharenui." Please join me in congratulating our first recipient of the afternoon, Jo Hetalensen.
Kia ora. A te korowai a te kaihanga, a te korowai a te rangi Māori, kua hora ina i a tātou katoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnei te mihi ki te pai, ki te pirimihia, ki te minita, te kai karanga, te kai karakia, ki ngā karanga maha. Koutou kua tai mai ki whakanui te kaupapa o tēnei zui whakangā hau. Tēnei te mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. I wish to thank everyone for ensuring that today proceeded. I acknowledge the extraordinary circumstances that have prevented us from gathering at the Beehive today. However, I was delighted to receive my pauaka kai yesterday. I would have loved to have shared it with you all, but my family were the happy recipients of your generosity that encompasses the values of Ako Aotearoa, Mauri ora kia koutou. Receiving this award, I acknowledge that I do not stand here on my own, but I stand flanked by generations of our tupuna. I stand on behalf of our most sacred tamariki. I pay homage to our great Kaupapa Maori teachers, Whaia Linda Matua Graham Smith, Whaia Tanya Kai, Whaia Rangi Maria Rosepere, Matua Hari Williams, Matua Hari Paniora, Whaia Linda Toki, and so many more for your wisdom and the many ways that your work has made a difference in education. In that regard, I believe that early childhood education is a leader in Aotearoa and has been an unsung hero for the advances that have been made in normalising mātauranga Māori in education. Our mokopuna are our next leaders and the greatest treasure that we have. I pay tribute to Kaupapa Maori approaches that position them as such. We are always in a changing world, and that challenges tertiary education in Aotearoa to respond in ways that honours our unique place and relationships as a nation in Te Moana Nui a Kiwa. We punch above our weight apparently, and that is certainly true of Te Whariwānanga o Wairaka Unitec Institute of Technology. Through numerous challenges Unitec have faced, we are in the waka together in treaty-based partnership. We continue to commit to the values of te noho kotahitanga. So I received this award on behalf of my colleagues who support the flourishing of Māori and help to navigate choppy oceans to benefit our learners. I pay respect to our learners for your tenacity and determination to carry the aspirations of your people forward. And it is an honour to stand and work at an institution with people willing to keep punching above this weight. It is humbling to stand here as an uri of Ngāpuhi Nui Tonu and receive an award that acknowledges all that is excellent about Kaupapa Māori. Nō reira, ai o ki te aorangi, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Mauri ora.
E te puhi, e te hine, papa ana whaititiri tō ekenga ki tōna taumata. Waipuke ana a waipau i tōna whakahihi. Tū tonu a maunga rongo, manaki tangata, manaki tamariki, manaki taonga, ao te pō, pō te ao. Ka mihi rā ki a koe e hine. On to our next recipient. I expect you to be great. Like my ancestors who intentionally navigated here across Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, the vast Pacific Ocean, I expect you to be great and to navigate your own pathway and destiny. Our second recipient this afternoon, Associate Professor Anne-Marie Jackson from Te Kurapara Whakawai, the School of Physical Education, Sport and Exercise Sciences at the University of Otago, clearly sets out her expectations of her students as soon as they step foot into her classroom. And it's obvious from the statements within her portfolio that her skills are in creating opportunities for learning for her students, her unrelenting belief in them to succeed, and above all, her empathy and care for her students and their future aspirations. She doesn't just tell them to be excellent, she shows them how to be excellent. I proudly get to call her my colleague here at Otago. Please join me in congratulating Associate Professor Anne-Marie Jackson.
Tēnā tātou. Ko poko te tani whā ko rangiriri te rākau whakangautai. Ko hoero te ngaru mahuhu te waka, rongo mai te ariki ko Ngāti Whātua te iwi. Tēnei anō tātou te koronga, he heringa nau e rua tau ki nei tauire ki nei pēr. Tuaki nei au te tātou taku whare, ko te rangi kaupapa tātou tā whirirangi I te pūmoto moso ta kauwhanga o te toi o ngā rangi. E paua tūtakini, tauru nui, tauru ata mau wharikura, kapu toaro, kapu te ngā tata, te ngā otoro, te piere, te tātou o tēnei whare e tui honei. Nā toaro, nā tōpē e re hua marua tau e. E mihi kawana hoki ki kia koutou, kua whakatūwhiri I tēnei hui, I tēnei ahi pō, kia koutou, whakarite ana I tēnei me te zui, tino pai rawa atu tēnei momo. Ne tautoko ana hau ngā mihi kua mihia me ngā kupu puta o te whae o iau. Tēnā rau atu koe whaia, he uri a hau hoki no te whare tapu o ngā pui. I roto I tēnei whare, nō reira e mihi kauana kia tātou I tēnei ahi pō. Good everybody, I'm Anne-Marie, also beaming in from Dunedin, like Karen, and it's my real pleasure to accept this award this afternoon and to congratulate the other awardees, of course, and to pay special thanks to those who have put together this afternoon amidst the context that we're currently living in, and to thank Ako Aotearoa as well as our Prime Minister and our ministers involved in putting this together. I want to thank, I can see my supervisor who took me on as a 17-year-old years ago has just come into the office beside me. So a big thank you to all of those supporters from my colleagues and mentors and communities over the many years and helping to craft the person and the teacher that I am today. A special thanks to the many at Otago from our university, from HE, our Higher Education Development Centre, our marketing team, of course, our whānau at Te Korenga and our many Māori staff and past recipients. If I think of when I started as a lecturer, I want to particularly thank Dr. Taniwai Rewi, who let me sit in her classes as a Kaupapa Maori educator and what that meant and how that profoundly shaped my own career. I want to thank our School of Physical Education staff, particularly in professional studies. Again, when I began as a lecturer, they showed me the importance of seeing the best in a student and the intersections of theory and practice and what our understanding of physical education means as world leading in our conception of hauora within Aotearoa in the world. I'd like to acknowledge my whānau, of course, many who are watching today too, and I think this award is very much a reflection of our own whakapapa. To my late mum, I know you adored our students, our PE students. They do have a little twinkle in their eye. They had a lot of life about them, they do, and that they're doers, and I can definitely see your influence in them. And finally, there is no kaupapa without students, and we have the great joy in being able to share and celebrate in your success and bringing all the gifts and talents that you have within you. And I think we're only such a small part of all the great things that you go on to do as a student and the impact that you're going to make in the world to be able to work positively alongside our communities in our pursuit, our collective pursuit of Māori order. So nō reira, e mihi kauana anō kia tātou, I runga I tēnei āhuatanga o te wā, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Yay! Oh, you!
Kei hea koe naro nei te atahapara. Huru manu he tangata e. Huru mārire he mahi mā tātou. Kei te hiahia, kei te koronga. E mara, ko koe, o tira ko koutou, te whakatīnanatanga o ngā wawata o tō māma. Me whakahihi koe, me whakahihi koutou, ka tika. Tēnā koutou. Our third recipient today, Kaylee Jones, is a lecturer in the College of Education, Health and Human Development at the University of Canterbury. In her role as a teacher educator, she wants her students to consider how to create culturally rich spaces and how to utilise Indigenous forms of knowledge for the children they will teach. For many of her students, doing so takes them out of their comfort zone, including one who admitted breaking out in cold sweats when Kaylee told them that they would be writing and saying their mihi out loud and in public in front of other people. I'm sure there were a few other colourful words chucked in there to their panicked reaction to this news too. Kaylee's technique in helping lessen these anxieties is with gentle coaxing, a lot of manaaki, constant reassurance, helping students find their role in these situations and revealing her own vulnerabilities in this space. She creates life-changing experiences in a lifelong journey of learning. Please join me in congratulating Kaylee Jones.
tuhia ki te rangi, tuhia ki te whenua, tuhia ki te ngākau o te tangata, tihei mauri ora. Ki aku nui, ki aku rahi, tēnā rā koutou katoa. Ka rere atu te aroha ki o tātou nei mate o te wiki, o te marama, o te tau. Kei te noho ki te koroai o rangi nui, kei te mihi o ki oki ai. Te hunga mate ki te hunga mate, te hunga ora ki te hunga ora. Ki o tātou whānau, e noho māwiwi ana, e noho āwangawanga ana, nā ngā uauatanga o te wā, rere atu ngā mihi, ngā whakaaro atu whai. Rauranga tira mā, ki te whānau whānui o ako Aotearoa, kei te ōwhātu ki a koutou, i tō koutou kaha ki te whakamanoa i a mātou, aha kua ngā rerekētanga o te wā. Ki tōku whānau, kua kaha rawa atu ki te tautoko mai i ahau, i a rā, e kore e mutu ngā mihi, tai o mihi ki a koutou. Nei te whakamiha ki ngā ahorangi me ngā pūkenga o te whare wānanga. Oku hoa, miharo, koutou katoa, nōku te maringa nui ki te mahi ki o koutou taha. Ki te pautoko manua o te taha rangahau Māori, tō tātou pau, matua Angus hi Kairo McFarlane, kua kaha koe ki te whakatinatina mai i ahau i a mātou katoa, kei te mihi atu i te matua. He honore rawa atu tēnei. Thank you all. This is not a tohu that I hold alone. I'm part of a whānau, and koutou, if you could see here, I am part of a whānau. That's why my eyes keep drifting off to the side. E hara taku toa i te tōtaki tahi, engari he tōtaki tini. Our mahi as kaiako is to believe in others and create opportunities for others to succeed. It's about getting to know our akuna and seeing their potential. Many here have seen my potential, even when I haven't seen it for myself. So, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. When we acknowledge and celebrate one's identity, culture, language, and whakapapa, we set a foundation for success. We bring with us our tūpuna, our whānau, our ainga, and we bring with us our lived experiences. Our tamariki, mokopuna are our taonga, and they are our teachers, of whom we can learn the most valuable lessons from. Hoi poi a te kākano kia puawai. I'm endlessly grateful for my whānau and my waira te whare wānanga o Waitaha whānau. They've shown me and taught me manaakitanga and aroha ki te tangata. Tēnā rā koutou katoa. Mai nā tāku.
E poe tō poe māhaki e poe tō poe paraurangi e. Ruirui a ngā kākano kia puawai, kia tūpakari, kia horapahia whānuhia o na hua. E hika, ko te āhua nei, he tauira akona I raro I te maru o Kaylee, tū ki te ao, tauwana. Aku mihi e hoa. Our fourth recipient in the Kaupapa Maori category is Dr. Rhys Jones, a senior lecturer in Te Kupunga Hauora Māori, Department of Māori Health at the University of Auckland. Rhys believes transforming students' learning experiences is an essential precursor to improving Māori health and health equity. Our teaching must foster transformation, not just among learners, but also within institutions, systems and structures. And from what I saw of your news release today, or this afternoon, what a battle we have on our hands. One particular student showed the power of Rhys's teaching when they said, Rhys's skillful and soulful capacity to hold a room of any size, while thoroughly, yet respectfully and even kindly, deconstructing and re-educating a student's racist thinking is truly phenomenal. Indigenous health education seeks to unsettle, challenge and indigenize the institutions within which we work, a battle all of these Māori academics face on the daily. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Rhys Jones.
Tēnā koutou katoa, I te tuatahi inga e te wahakaranga, tēnā koe, me mihi ka teke ki tō tātou karakia hoki, e whita e te whanaunga e Joe, tēnā koe. E te minita, ka nui te mihi mo tō kōrero hei whakamana I tēnei kaupapa. A tēnā nā hoki koe e Karen, me ngā mihi mai oha ki te rōpu o ako Aotearoa. Nō reira, e koe aku rangatira, huri no te motu, ko Rhys Jones tēnei, huri a hau no Ngāti Kahungunu e mihi ana ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. It's an incredible honour to receive this award, and I'd like to thank Ako Aotearoa first up for recognising this mahi, and mihi to everyone else whose achievements are being celebrated this afternoon. I believe it's really important to celebrate the status of teaching and learning. It's often an undervalued part of our academic role, I believe. It's already been said today, but I'm going to say it again. E hara taku toa I te toa takitahi, engari he toa takitini. It sounds a bit cliche maybe, but I honestly feel like this award is recognition of the collective achievements of so many people. From very early in my career, I've had a desire to take my passion for teaching beyond the classroom, beyond just the learning at an individual level, to try to transform educational curricula and institutions and ultimately make the world a better place. So yeah, all about world peace. That's obviously something that requires a collective effort. So I'd in particular like to thank Paparangi Reid, our tumuaki, who's been unwavering in supporting our vision and the kaupapa. I want to acknowledge all those who came before me, too many to mention, paved the way for us, to my colleagues in Te Kupenga Hauora Māori, and the wider community of Indigenous health educators. I also have to say all of our mahi is underpinned by our kaumātua, e kore o te ngā mihi ki a koutou. I'd also like to count those people who wrote nice things about me in my application, and particularly the students, many students who provided testimonials. Speaking of students, you know, I have to say a big mihi. I often come away from teaching sessions feeling like I've learned more from the students than they could have possibly learned from me. Nō reire ngā tauira, tēnei te mihi ki a koutou. Like to thank our wonderful team at the University of Auckland who supported me in putting together the application. For someone who doesn't really like to showcase what I do, I really appreciated that help in translating my efforts into something resembling a teaching portfolio. Obviously, none of this would have been possible without my whānau, so just want to acknowledge Joe and our boys for the sacrifices I think they've made, and for having to cope with my frustrations when the world isn't always turning out to be a better place. I have to say my siblings also have been a huge source of support, really playing that sort of critical friend role, some more critical, some more friendly. And last but not least, I can't ever thank my parents enough for everything they've done, apart from, inspiring a passion for education. They've really instilled in us a drive for social justice and an intolerance of inequity that I think continues to underpin everything I do. Nō reira, aku mihi ki a koutou katoa, tēnā koutou. A me te mihi anō ki ngā kaumātua ko tai mai hei kai tautoko, kia ora tātou katoa.
Tūtira mai ngā iwi, aue, tātou e. Torono titaha. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, aue, tātou e. Pai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, kia tapatahi, kia kotahira. Tātou e, tātou e, hiau e hi.
Tēnā kōrua. E tū whakapūnake, e rere wairoa, hō pūpū, hō ninge mātangi rau, e tū te apatū. Me oho ngā whare wānanga, me matāra te manatū, hauora kei konei a kahungunu. Kahungunu ki te whaiao, ki te ao mārama, tihei mauri ora. Dr. Awanui Te Huia rounds out the last of our recipients in the Kaupapa Maori category. She comes to us from Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington, where she is a senior lecturer in Te Kaupapa Maori, the School of Māori Studies. Not everyone who is a speaker of Te Reo Māori is able to teach it. Mixed level linguistic abilities in the one classroom requires someone who is flexible, quick thinking, and able to adapt lesson plans and teaching activities on the spot. It takes a certain type of person to be able to do that. It's clear from her portfolio that Awanui is one of those people. Her strengths are getting students to recognise the socio-political and economic constraints that have hindered their language learning journey thus far, but to also not limit their reo aspirations because of such constraints. Ki mai nei a te whare huia, whakahokia mai. Mai te mato te pene ki te mata o te arero, kei noho kaunua, hei reo mo te pepa, te pene. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Awanui Te Huia.
Tēnā rā koutou katoa. Me mihi ka tika hau ki a koutou o ako. Nā koutou nei e whai whakaaro ana kia whakaturia e nei tohu hei whai mā mātou ngā kai ako o Aotearoa. Me mihi hoki ki te reo kōrero, ki te reo karanga e whakatau nei a mātou i tēnei rā. Kua wātea tō tātai papa i a kōrua nā mahi no reira tēnā rā kōrua. Me mihi hoki ki te minita o tira ki te pirimia e whakawātea mai a koutou. Mahi hei tuku i ngā whakaaro kia mātou i tēnei rā, aku mihi nui kia koutou. Ka nui hoki aku mihi kia koutou ngā kai whakawhiwhi tohu i tēnei rā. Me taku waimarie kia noho ki wainga i a koutou i tēnei o ngā whai. Nei anō hoki aku mihi ki ngā whānau, ki ngā kaiako e tuku ana i tō wā kia mātou o tira kia hau, kia whai i tō ara, i o koutou ara, me kia whiwhi ai tēnei tohu tēnei rā. Kia toi huarewa, te kawa Māui, te whānau o te hiringa waka, o tira ki o tātou ruruhi a te ripua Higgins, nā koutou e poipoi ana i te ahurea kia pua wai ai ngā kaiako o tira ki ngā akonga i tēnei o ngā whare wānanga o Wikitoria o te hiringa waka. Nō reira aku mihi kia tātou. It's a privilege to be sitting amongst those being awarded today, particularly as Karen mentioned before, that this is an unprecedented number of recipients of the Kaupapa Maori category within the Ako Aotearoa awards. So to me, and this has been mentioned also by the other recipients, this says less about our personal achievements and more about the work of our predecessors in providing a huarahi for us to follow, as well as the support that we gain from our colleagues, our whānau, our tauira, and those that are able to enhance our ability to teach. So right at this moment, I'm sitting in the office that was once the office of Tahirini Moko Mead, the first professor here at Te Kaupapa Maori at Victoria University, and I'm reminded of some of the whakaaro that he's shared within his writings. So he's commented on the fact that as Māori academics, we have a very real and pressing duty to our Māori communities due to the implications of colonisation. As Māori academics, we have an obligation and responsibility to support our tauira to be enabled to contribute to our whānau, hapu, iwi, and communities more broadly in a cultural capacity. Māori leaders throughout our communities over decades have made massive steps towards cultural and linguistic revitalisation and normalisation. As young Māori educators, our role in this process is to follow the work already laid out for us, applying the new tools and techniques that we have available to us to support the facilitation of change towards the ultimate goal of decolonisation and cultural revitalisation. I want to thank Ako Aotearoa again for providing us with the opportunity to celebrate Māori success in Aotearoa. Nō reira, tēnā rā koutou katoa.
E noho ana I te mahau o taku whare I hui te rangi o rā whakarongo ana ki te haruru o te rangi e tangi hare ana. Ko koutou pe aku au nuhi ai wainga I te ono haere te iwi ki te riri ora ora. Ka eke ki raro. Noho mai koha ki ngā tāni whakai kona te iwi hei auta I te riri ko re rohi atu ki ai ka tāmure kia tawhia I te rangi. Hei hāpai I te patu hei taki taki o koutou mate. E huri te titiro ki te urunga o te rā te tonga o te rā ko te ara tēnei haere atu ai ki te pō uri uri ki te pō tango tongo. Kia piki tia ke te ara, ta whaki piki ai ki runga e tai ki reira. Mihi mai e te iwi e.
A mōkau ki runga, tāmaki ki raro, manga toa ki Wainganui, he rirunga whenua, he rirunga reo. Kei raro I te maru o ihoa, ko tau mai a pare te kaua, hei rāna ki te utsu o aua rirunga. Ko te reo kia rere, ko te reo kia tika, ko te reo kia Māori. Tēnā koe e hoa o tira, tēnā koutou ko tō whānau. We now move on to those who submitted portfolios under the general category and acknowledge the 4 awardees here today. Our first recipient is Anuj Bhargav, a professional teaching fellow at the University of Auckland, where he teaches physiology in the School of Medical Sciences. Anuj lays a foundation for students to transition from focusing on memorization and comprehension of facts to independent learners who can synthesize, communicate, and effectively apply their disciplinary knowledge. Oh, the dream outcome of tertiary teaching, right? It was acknowledged by his dean that Anuj's holistic teaching philosophy centres on students as individuals rather than simply members of a large cohort. And he recognises that individuals want personal support, guidance, and extensive feedback to build confidence. This is by no means an easy thing to do when you have 800 students every year, but somehow Anuj makes every single one of them a priority. I'd like you to join me in congratulating Anuj Bhargav.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, Karen, for your warm welcome. Many thanks to Aotearoa and the selection panel for this wonderful opportunity. I would like to acknowledge my institution, the University of Auckland, for my nomination and all the hard work that went into the portfolio development. Thank you. I strongly believe in holistic teaching and learning and need to acknowledge the role of people around me in shaping the type of teacher I am today. My team of colleagues in the School of Medical Sciences and beyond have always been open to trying new ideas to make a better learning environment for the students. They have provided me with opportunities that enable me to put students at the center of my teaching and connect them as individuals. I would like to especially acknowledge Professors Paul Donaldson and Professor Laura Bennett, who have been the source of ongoing support and stimulation. Thank you to my peers for asking me, what can we do better and what shall we do next? Most importantly, I feel very fortunate to be able to relate easily to my students and sympathize with their challenges. It has been a privilege to foster a learning environment that's built on empathy. As part of my holistic approach, I feel it's imperative for me to know my students, their backgrounds, and to recognize their needs. Feeling that I contribute to their growth as individuals makes my role very, very special. When I was a student, I was empowered through enthusiastic and respectful teaching. I honor this by respecting my own students, listen to their voices for inspiration, for developing creative approaches, and creating that wananga within my teaching domain. My students have rich and diverse background, Māori, Pacifica, international students, and they've all taught me the value of whakamana, collective respect, and whananatanga, connecting with others. So to my students, thank you for appreciating my dad jokes, even if only laughing from the inside. Looking forward to the next phase of my teaching challenge. I hope to learn more from my students, from my peers, and venture more into the blended learning environments. And lastly, to my wife, Helen, and my whānau, thank you for the endless support. He waka eke noa, kia ora.
Kia kahara, kia mana wanui, kia maia, tātou tātou e, te aroha, te whakapono me te rangi mari e, tātou tātou e. Kia ora rawanush.
Ka pai.
I'd like to finish with a little acknowledgement from one of Anusha's students who wrote, "Something as simple as greeting me in my native tongue plays a part in restoring my confidence that I can achieve what is seen as uncommon for someone with my ancestry." Thank you, Anush, for always being there as a teacher, as an advisor, and most importantly, as a friend. Congratulations. Many of us here have no doubt been a user of the healthcare system in one way or another. And with that comes interactions with nurses. Our next recipient, Josie Crawley, who I see is gathering her crew behind her, uses a novel approach of storytelling in her teaching and her role as a principal lecturer in the School of Nursing at Otago Polytechnic. This method allows the students to reflect on their own similar experiences, become more emotionally connected to the lesson, and then remember the main learning outcomes from that story. Josie recognises the diversity of her students and that they deserve culturally meaningful learning experiences. Using narrative methodologies, she assists students to acknowledge and value their cultural background, develop new knowledge and ways of thinking, and adopt a critical approach to their practice, all in the aim of creating compassionate nurses. Please join me in congratulating Josie Crawley.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. What I really wanted to say too was thank you to Ako Aotearoa. This award means an enormous amount to me, not just for myself, but for all of the people who stand behind me, quite literally in this case, but also quite figuratively, and to Te Kura Tapuhi, which is the School of Nursing at Otago Polytechnic. Several recipients have said this, but we don't do this alone. We have our colleagues. We have learned from colleagues over years and years who have passed on tips, knowledge, who role modelled excellent practice. And I'd like to say thank you to them, and particularly to the School of Nursing for their support, and to Otago Polytechnic, who supports us to apply for this award and is helping us to celebrate it as well. I'm going to attempt my mihi because as lecturers and as we are always learning, we too are the learners. So please forgive me for all my pronunciation when it goes a little bit haywire. Ko ata tāhia te tūranga waiwai, I tipu ake auki o te puti. I raru a te maru o te moko ki kaitahu. I te taha o te awa ko o whiro. Ko Gaelic te iwi, ko Crawley Smith te hapu, ko Crawley Ratua, ko Alexander, ko Boddington, ko Forsyth ka whānau. Ko Bernard Crawley, Raua, ko Nan Alexander, ka mātua. Ko a tēnei. Ko Josie Crawley te hukoi au kwa. One of the things that applying for this portfolio meant for me was that we were able to actually have the absolute luxury of being able to sit there and explore and reflect on what it was that actually made us be teachers and on what made our style sort of come through. And I found from doing that I had some real foundations that were at the base of my teaching and have been at the base of my teaching ever since I can remember. And those foundations I'd like to mention for a moment, and also some of those touchstones. My father was my first real foundation, and that's Bernard Crawley. He was a lecturer, but he hadn't always been a lecturer. He had had to leave grammar school at the age of 14. We'd been on scholarship to help support his own family. And he was passionate about education, absolutely passionate. I could have done most things, I think, in life and been forgiven. If I hadn't gone to tertiary education, I think it would have been much harder for him to actually forgive. But not only that, as a course coordinator at Polytech himself, and in fact as program coordinator in electrotechnology, he really believed in that transformative power of education, and he would spend enormous amounts of time with students trying to make sure that they were able to meet the criteria they needed to meet and to understand what they were doing. He'd use experiential things. He looked as an absolute inspiration. He was also incredibly highly organised and really planned ahead, which I got a tiny bit of, but not quite as much as I would have liked. There was also my mother, Nan Crawley, who was Nan Alexander, was an artist and a very creative woman, and she also taught both art and Hebrew. From her, I think what I gleaned much more was that creative flexibility. I can remember one time driving to an art class that she was about to teach, and we pulled up at the side of the road, and she collected acorns, bark, leaves, this enormous whole big box of things, and immediately just in the next 10 minutes while driving to the art class, changed the whole plan of what she was doing, because this was all so beautiful what was there and so immediate, and was able to run a really good class just sort of on the flick of a pin, able to do that. There was also my granddad. My granddad, Alfred Crawley, was my dad's dad, and for a long time when I was a little girl, when I was a toddler, he lived with us. His patience was incredible with me. I used to toddle in with a pile of books about yay high, and sit up there on the couchy bed next to him, and he would sit there and start reading to me. Now I say reading because he would tell me stories using the pictures of the books as sort of an inspiration, and from him I learned that all of the stories in a book, that they weren't in the book, that the book led to a whole lot of possibilities and perspectives and different ways of thinking. And I really do thank those people for that. And they are my foundation. They are what have been at the base of my teaching practice. I also have touchstones around narrative therapy, and around narrative theory, also around the respect for students. I look at every student that I work with as a future colleague, and hopefully I treat them that way. Others have said this too, but the students often teach us as much as we teach them. And there is a real pleasure in that. And also, if every learner who is there has got a context that they've come from, and it's a real privilege sometimes for them to share that context with us so that we can shape that education to really fit their needs and to engage them and for them to be really exciting within them. And I'm just going to share one tiny moment, which is one of my favourite teaching moments from a book. Hopefully that's not all purple, Giraffes Can't Dance, which is by Giles Andre and Guy Parker Lee. This book I used to read to first year nursing students in their first week of practice. So they were year one, and they'd been sitting there for about 3 days, and they were scared stiff. They all felt like frauds. They were all certain that everybody sitting next to them knew a lot more than they did, and that it was all going to be very, very hard. And there's a page in here, which I meant to mark before we came, where Gerald the giraffe discovers that, whoops, daisies, when he's on his own and he's feeling confident and able, can you please see that? There we go, that giraffes can dance and turn somersaults in the air. One nursing student, so 3 years later, on her graduation day, came up to me and without saying anything else said, "Josie," and I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm turning somersaults in the air." And that's the power of some of the literature and the stories to really hold people and to come within them and help them actually on that transformative journey. So kia ora all. Thank you to all who've been part of this journey with me. And literally some of my sisters are here with me at the moment and would like to support this.
Maku kia koe, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata.
Thank you.
Me he korokoru tui koutou. You stated in your profile that excellent teaching for student nurses requires presence, enthusiasm, and meaningful learning. You clearly provide those three things, and we, the New Zealand public, thank you for the graduate nurses you help train. Congratulations. Latin is often described as being a dead language, but in our next recipient's classroom, it is very much alive. Embedding a language in one's life so that it has ongoing personal meaning and relevance opens new worlds for us that we can explore for our whole lives. Dr. Maxine Lewis is a senior lecturer in classics and ancient history at the University of Auckland, where she immerses her students in an ancient world that has modern day relevance. Not an easy thing to do when the roots of her discipline are located on the other side of the world. So Maxine finds ways to connect that knowledge with what we have in our own backyard. As one of her colleagues states, coming from a white Australian background, she leapt trustingly into a Māori and Pacific space and grappled with significant challenges to her own identity and understandings. This was a professional and emotional risk taken willingly for the betterment of her teaching and her students. And Maxine achieved results. Australia's loss is most definitely New Zealand's gain. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Maxine Lewis.
Unmute. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today, and to the organisers of this event. Being online, apart from anything else, has allowed my wife to be here with me, which is a real privilege and something really meaningful. My passion as a teacher has always been about increasing student access, about equity, and about helping students succeed, whatever that means for them. And I feel really privileged to be recognised by this particular body, which prioritises student diversity and educational inclusion. I'm really pleased, especially to see so many teachers today being recognised for their work in Kaupapa Maori. I'm very appreciative of all the wonderful staff who have supported and encouraged me as I've developed as a teacher throughout my life, including my mum, who is a teacher who was my first teacher, but particularly here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. In particular, my colleagues in Classics and Ancient History, all of them at the University of Auckland, the mentors in our Tuakana program, Zoe, Mia May, Alofa, and the Ako Arts team, including Hirini, Sharon, Kaita. They've all helped me radically refine and change the way I teach. Education in Aotearoa has elements that I had never seen elsewhere, including Australia, where I'm from. I've had the opportunity here to learn from Indigenous and Pacifica students and work with Indigenous colleagues to improve outcomes for our Māori and Pacifica whānau. At my institution, there's a growing awareness that to improve such outcomes, Pākehā teachers such as myself need to change our practices, our ideas, our hearts and our minds. And I'm trying to do so, and I plan to keep doing so in future years. I'm constantly raving to friends and colleagues about my amazing students, from undergrad to postgrad to people who have finished with their formal study but who keep in touch and who are on amazing journeys in all fields of life. I really hope that such students in Latin and classical studies who come from all different walks of life across New Zealand continue to come through to us at universities across the country. This year, the Ministry for Education is considering proposals to cut some humanities and social science disciplines at high school, such as media studies, art history, Latin and classical studies. Students and high school teachers and tertiary staff from these disciplines have been responding to such proposals with lots of great ideas for how to retain and strengthen the teaching of these fields. I really hope that the review process will lead to good outcomes for these subjects and all the students who are so passionate to study them. In my view, cuts to the variety of subjects offered to students reduces diversity within education, narrowing the range of skills and perspectives that students can learn from. In past years, ACO recognised excellence at the tertiary level from teachers in media and communication, and more recently in art history. I feel really privileged this year that this year Latin and classical studies are being recognised as subjects that can be taught inclusively within a really distinct educational context of Aotearoa New Zealand. Thank you very much for the honour of this award.
Tuia ngā kāka noi te moana nui a ki wā pērahia ki te moana rongo nui herea ngā waka ki te pauwhakairo ka tuki wai te mata I raro I te maru maru o ngā maunga tapu ko wai papa te manawa penua.
This is a writer that was written
O
especially
te
for the
whare
University of Washington.
wānanga nei. Kia ora rawa, Maxine.
Thank you.
The one Latin phrase that I remember vividly is non scholae sed vitae discimus. Not for school, but for life we are learning. And I can see Anne-Marie nodding her head in agreement because we both went to the same high school and it's the motto of our school. I think in relation to everyone gathered here today, no truer words could be spoken. I hope your study abroad trips to Rome resume soon and I'll happily enrol in your paper when they do. Congratulations, Maxine. As we know, getting students to read anything today is a constant battle. But the students in our final recipients classroom are shown how stories have the capacity to enchant, transport, connect, and transform. Associate Professor Christine Moffat from the Department of English at the University of Waikato makes her classroom a place of wonder, a place of magic, and with magic, there is joy. She takes creative risks, is interactive in her performance of stories, makes use of costumes and immersive experiences, and intentionally disrupts the traditional academic space. And in doing so, she unwittingly shows her students that it's okay for them to do so. Christine teaches them the ability to read critically, communicate clearly, and argue convincingly, but also to reflect on some of the big questions of life, such as coping with grief and loss, balancing individuality and social responsibility, and finding the courage to speak up about what they believe in. Please join me in congratulating Associate Professor Christine Moffat.
I'm so delighted to receive this award today. I love teaching. It brings me joy, discovery, self-expression, and a deep sense of connection to others. And this afternoon, I want to acknowledge 3 of these important connections. Firstly, I acknowledge and thank my family. I come from a family of teachers, and I have learned so much from those who have come before me. I honour my grandfather, Daniel Strickland Moffat, who showed me that teaching is about making knowledge accessible and relevant. I honour my mother, Dorothy Moffat, who demonstrates that teaching requires vast reserves of patience, kindness, and empathy. And I honour my father, David Moffat, who inspires me to be passionate about literature, to always be unapologetically myself, and to be an uncompromising advocate for what I value. Secondly, I want to acknowledge and thank my supportive colleagues at the University of Waikato. We are a small but dynamic English program, and I am so grateful to Mark, Anne, Sarah, May, Tracy, and Catherine for their shared belief in the relevance of literature and its power to enchant and transport, to stir the emotions, and to raise vital questions about what it means to be human. I honour the many wonderful sessional assistants who I work with and who inspire and stimulate our students. I also thank the wider community at my university for all the teaching support and sharing of knowledge. This is epitomised by the grace and the wisdom of the late Di Johnson. Thirdly, I want to acknowledge and thank my students. I do take creative risks in the classroom, From dressing in period costume to scripting performances to disrupting space to inviting my students into immersive experiences. These risks only work because my students join me in a teaching partnership. I honour them for their bravery, trust, openness to new ideas, and willingness to share a part of themselves. Thank you for making the classroom a place of exchange and transformation. I began by paying tribute to my family, and I end by introducing the song that my father is going to sing to you. My love of stories goes back to my earliest childhood. Each night stories would be read to me, and then my father would sing to me. He will sing one of these songs now. This song is a statement of love and support from our family of teachers. It also resonates with my recent experience of teaching a dystopian literature paper during lockdown. Song in these stories, particularly George Orwell's 1984, is associated with resilience, an affirmation of the human spirit and hope. And this is a message I think we need more than ever in our uncertain world.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the rain, walk on through the storm, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. The night Christine wore her wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, her mother called her Wild Thing, and Christine said, "I'll eat you up." So she was sent to bed without eating anything. Thank you, Christine, for showing our future parents how to protect their future babies from the wild things like your father did for you. And with a good book, you'll never walk alone. Congratulations. That concludes the presentation of the recipients of a 2020 National Tertiary Teaching Excellence Award. I had the pleasure of reading all of your portfolios in preparation for this event. Whilst the usual phrases of transformative teaching, producing critical thinkers, and empowering learners appeared in many portfolios, I found the comments by your students and colleagues much more insightful. Kind, caring, creative, inspirational, passionate, possessing an infectious enthusiasm, and so on. No one asks in a teaching evaluation, how kind and caring is your teacher? But when every single one of the comments in your portfolio speaks about your character as a person, that must mean you're doing the right things by your students. That's more of a testament of the value of your teaching than any institutional teaching evaluation or course evaluation could ever show. I congratulate you all for this amazing achievement today. And this is the time where we're going to unmute everyone. So please give all of our awardees today the biggest round of Zoom applause.
I'll see how it's going off and on.
So for these awards, applicants are required to submit a portfolio of their teaching, which are then assessed by a panel of teaching experts and external reviewers. May we thank them all for undertaking this daunting task. I'd especially like to thank Phil Kerr for taking on the role as the chair of the awards panel. Of the 9 people acknowledged here this afternoon, the panel chose just one of them to be the overall Prime Minister's Supreme Award winner. I'd like to turn your attention to the second video from Minister Hipkins to announce who that person is.
On behalf of Jacinda Ardern, it gives me great pleasure to announce the Prime Minister's Supreme Award. The Prime Minister is absolutely committed to the value of education and its ability to change lives for the better. The Supreme Award, which comes with a further $10,000, goes to the person here tonight who best exemplifies the award's overall excellence criteria. This person is a leader in their field, not just in New Zealand but globally. These awards are about more than academic excellence. They recognise leadership in the way you synthesise your knowledge with your teaching practice. You create positive impacts on your students and your colleagues, your discipline and your communities. The Ako Aotearoa panel described this as one of the most elegant and dignified teaching and learning portfolios to come before the awards. The Prime Minister's Supreme Award goes to Dr. Rhys Jones, Senior Lecturer to Kupenga Haora Maori, the University of Auckland. My warmest congratulations to you, Dr. Jones.
Beautiful. He te sungane, ko riro i a koe tēnei honore noi, nā runga no I tō kaha ki te whakatika I ngā he, kia ora ai te iwi Māori. Mai kore ngā tāngata pēnei I a koe, ka mate kuri noa te iwi Māori. Me whakanui hoki mātou I tō whānau. Te piko o te māhuri, tērā te tipu o te tamaiti. Tēnei anō hoki te mihi atu ki a koutou katoa. Congratulations, Rhys, on this amazing achievement. I hope I've given you enough time to collect your thoughts because now I'd like to give you another chance to speak, but this time as the Prime Minister's Supreme Award winner. And following Rhys's speech, Joe and Alexia will be singing the song Puri Anei in recognition of the achievements of all the awardees here today. Over to you, Rhys.
Oh wow! I don't know if you could ever give me enough time. He kōrero paku nui ho tāku no te mea kare aku kupu. E ngā raurangatira tēnā koutou, ka nui te mihi mo tēnei honore nui. Ai, te tohu whakahirahira o te pirimia. Nō reira, e kore o te ngā mihi kia koutou. I just really lost for words. I'm overwhelmed, and really because I think it's so humbling to be receiving this award when there are so many other amazing people here being celebrated and being acknowledged for incredible contributions and really demonstrating excellence in teaching. And so ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, all of us who have been awarded these awards tonight, ka nui te mihi. Just again want to thank my whānau, that's the start and the end of it all, and been there with me obviously the whole way through. Can't say enough about how much I love all my whānau, and the people that I've already acknowledged, my boss Paparangi, our team, everyone who's supported our kaupapa in Indigenous health and social justice and equity, our kaumātua. Ka nui tērā mō tēnei wā, engari, thank you so much. It's an incredible honour, and I just want to again pay my respects to everyone here who's made this possible. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Nei tō waiata. E te horoia, e te wā, i te te rā. Ake ngā ora raru. Makere ana ngā erere wairua erere ki ngā ao o te rangi hiti e te rā. Mahea ke ngā raru raru. Makere ana ngā makere ana ngā
There must be something in the waters of Ngāti Kahungunu to produce amazing medical educators like yourself and Professor Suzanne Pitama. Kei konei kahungunu. Reese, as part of the honour of being the recipient of the Supreme Award, you're also tasked with being the caretaker of Rauaroha, a korowai woven specifically to recognise the mana of the Supreme Award and the person who receives it. Rauaroha will be placed on your shoulders whenever COVID-19 restrictions allow it to happen. We were trying to plan a way of getting it to you sneakily, having last year's recipient standing outside your door, but we thought we better not. We better not think that. You'll become the kaitiaki of Rauaroha until the next award ceremony in 2021. As recipients of a Tertiary Teaching Excellence Award, you're now all a member of the Ako Aotearoa Academy. The aim of this group is to foster, promote and support the development of excellent tertiary teachers throughout New Zealand. I now ask Professor Mark Wilson, President of the Academy Executive, to say a few words on behalf of the Academy.
Kia ora tātou. And aroha to Karen, to Awanui, who I share whakapapa with through our PhD supervisor, and also to Anne-Marie, who won't remember, but she examined a master's thesis for me a couple of years ago, so thank you for that. It's such a fantastic privilege to be part of this festival, this celebration of the aspiration to teaching, and to share it all with you. And it has been a curiously intimate and moving session, in spite of the fact that we haven't done it in the physical presence of each other. Now, it's normally I understand in the vaudeville days, the job of the person who speaks last is to do such a bad job that everyone wants to leave. And I take this responsibility really seriously. But I do want to take just a couple of minutes just to reinforce what Karen has said. By virtue of the effort that went into your portfolio and the mahi that it represents, you're now a member of this academy that aspires to tertiary teaching excellence. I am sure that you are sitting there feeling a little bit imposter-like, feeling uncomfortable and wincing whenever someone describes you as excellent. So if it helps, think of it this way. And actually, I think it was Anuj who said it, looking forward to the next phase of my teaching challenge. Let this award be not a part of your eulogy, part of your tombstone for teaching, but rather a challenge to yourselves to live up to it, to continue that aspiration to excellence, so that as you continue to grow and change as a teacher, so too do your students benefit. As to what the Academy means, it's people like you who know the pain and the joy that is involved in these portfolios. and a chance to meet with those people. In a normal year, back in the before time, we would invite you to come to our annual conference, Talking Teaching, which occurs in November or December. Come together with us, but also other people who care deeply about tertiary learning and teaching, irrespective of the part of the tertiary sector that they come from. This is one of the things that's so importantly, fantastically special about these awards. You're not just with university academics or wānanga teachers or adult educators, for example. We represent the breadth of the tertiary sector. We will invite you to our Academy get-together at the end of the year. It'll be a little bit different, and we fully look forward to hearing about your stories, to welcome you into our whānau, and to supporting you and being supported by you in times that are particularly bizarre as they are now. So for now, ngā mihi mai aha. Thank you so much for the effort that you represent.
Thank you, Mark. Once again, congratulations to all our recipients who've been awarded a National Tertiary Teaching Excellence Award this afternoon. Yo, Anne-Marie, Kaylee, Reese, Awanui, Anuj, Josie, Maxine, and Christine. If you're like the rest of the members of the Ako Academy, I know that you don't do all that you do for any such accolades such as this. You do it for the love of transforming the lives of your students and your communities. But you've done it unselfishly and over a long period of time that you should be acknowledged this way. Kia toa koe heitsi kotahi harakoa mo te iwi. May you be triumphant so that all of us can rejoice, albeit for a small amount of time. I also know that sitting with you today or watching live around the world are your whānau, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your students, your children, your mokopuna, your sisters. They've no doubt been instrumental in your successes this far. And at this time, let's all be unmuted again to acknowledge all those important people with a huge round of noisy Zoom.
Mind when I stay up late?
Yes. Congratulations, everybody. Mauri ora kia koutou ka.
Into the puppy.
Okay. That's enough from me for today. My heartiest congratulations to all of our 2020 recipients. I'm a little bit jealous of the goodies that you all got sent. My box must have got lost in the post somewhere along the way. No, just kidding. I look forward to seeing you all and meeting you all in person very, very soon. So I'm now going to ask Joe to close us off for the afternoon with a karakia and a final farewell. And that isn't, you don't have to rush off anywhere. If you feel like having chats with people afterwards, you're more than welcome to do so. Over to you, Joe.
Nā reira tēnā nō rā tātou katoa. Ka tika hoki kia tukuna ngā mihi kia koe Mark Wilson e noho nei koe hei prehi tini mo te rōpu nei a te Academy o te rā kia Phil Kerr, te kaiwhakahaere i te rōpu whiriwhiri. Ngā ingoe wareware au te whakahua ko Annalise Robertson, rāua ko vai, puni vai ngā tiamana o te rōpu, o te rūnanga, o te moana nui a kiwa. Hoi anō, ka mihi tonu ki ngā toko iwa nei, ko whakarangatiratia nei, te rangi nei, ko utaina nei, ngā tohu whakahirahire nei kia koutou, tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. O ti rā, kia koe, tākuta Reese Jones, ka nui te mihi atu kia koe, ko eke nei, koe ki te taumata, ko utaina nei, te korowai nei, a te rau aroha ki runga kia koe, hei whakaruru hau tunu mōhau i roto i o haere katoa, tēnei ka mihi ka tangi atu kia koe, tēnā rā koe. O ti rā, e tātou mā, kia taunga manaakitanga a te rungarawa, ki runga ki tēnā o tātou i ngā wā katoa. Ka hoki anō ki ngā karakia a kui mā a koroma. Tēnei ka whakairi teke te kōrero. Ka whakahoki ai ngā Māori i tiki nā tu ai. Kia wā te ai nei pūkenga. Kia wā te ai nei tāngata e. Kia puta e tēnei kaupapa ki te whai ao, ki te ao mārama. Tūturu ka whakamau ai kia tīna. Tīna! Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e, kahuri.
That rounds us off for the afternoon. Kia ora. Safe journeys back home to wherever that may be.
Thank you, Karen. What's in the goodie bag?
I don't know, I didn't get one.
Did you say what was in the goodie bag? I thought the